Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about South Africa. As something came into my feed, it was Johannesburg. I think it was, yes, Johannesburg and Cape Town in 1969, street scenes. And that this was probably the CBD, or not probably, it was the CBD. So I was having a look at the street scenes there, very quiet, very orderly, people going about their business. There was, I don't know, looked like a very civilized sort of first world society, which it was. And I actually, I was looking at a few scenes. I looked at the racial mix of the people. So now, I mean, here's just one, for example, that I've copied. Is 17 people in the scene. There were 4 black women. There was 1 black man. These were all very well dressed. The black man's dressed in what looks like a pretty sharp suit. The women were all well dressed, the hats, the handbags, and so, which was part of the regalia at the time. There was 1 Indian woman. There was 4 white women and 7 white men. So it was pretty much steady, by the way, in each scene that I looked at. Whites were between 60 and 65% of all the people in every scene, certainly that I saw, and then the rest being a mix of blacks, coloured, and Indians. Now it's a bit hard to tell from the distance how many were black and how many were coloured. I would speculate that the majority of the non-white people were coloured rather than 100% black, but again, a little bit harder to say. But in terms of the black people being unruly mobs or something, that wasn't the case here. Again, all the black women and the black men too were all dressed quite smart, quite businesslike, and you couldn't, there was no dreadlocks or anything like that. There were, even the black women were wearing their pearls and so on. Now, this was the same whether you looked at Cape Town or Johannesburg. Now, there are a few shots of parks and very well maintained, neatly manicured green spaces and parks where there were small groups of, looked like younger black people, I would think, maybe at university, something like that. Still quite well dressed. They didn't look like unruly mobs or, dropping cones or something like that. They looked quite clean cut, and they were, but you didn't see white people lying around the parks, or certainly not in those shots. So it was younger black couples primarily. There's a few there where there'd say be three black men and a black woman. Now, you didn't see any white or black people together. Well, wherever you saw a group of blacks, it was all black. A group of whites was all white. A group of Indians was all Indian. So there wasn't a whole lot of, not from those shots anyway, into mixing. But it looked like a very clean, prosperous, well-ordered, well-managed, hard-working, industrious society. The way people were walking around, they had a purpose in their step. They were, going somewhere to do something. They were building and creating. They looked like they belonged and were part of something. It just had that look, that overall wider cohesion seemed to be there. Again, now this is a long time ago. This is what 55 years ago from those shots. But now look at the same, and given the sort of places that they were filming back then and the place they're filming today, you can pick the same streets, the same buildings are there, and so on. So you get a good comparison to see how that exact same street or same intersection or same train station, how it all looks today compared to 55 years ago. Whoa. You could be looking at a different planet, for goodness sakes. If it wasn't for the same buildings being there, which would tell you it's the same precise geographical position, you just wouldn't believe it. If someone said, "Oh, that's the same place," you'd say, "Nah, no, it's not." And you have a look at it, and it's there's a lot more people milling around. And in pretty much every shot, I couldn't see a single white person. today in those same places. I mean, like, not that there were a few or there are not one. Just to give you some sort of idea of the change there. So clearly, white people are either not welcome in the downtowns or the CBDs in this case, or they've left to go to other countries, or they've migrated or whatever. But in those scenes, not a single white person. Now that's quite a shock. Now in some of the pristine beaches that were around, say places around South Africa, some of those beaches are very nice, or look very nice anyway. Now, this was pretty much a whites only. There was the camera panned down the beach in 1969. I couldn't see. There's a couple, maybe. There's a few that were coloured, as in maybe they were a quarter black, something like that. But there were no black people I could see on the beach. And again, very orderly, well ordered, clean, tidy. Everyone's well behaved and this sort of thing. Now, then you look at that same beach today, and there's just gangs of young black men just roaming around, and it's got trash all over it. I mean, a very, very different place. And but again, no white people that I could see. Maybe they were there, but just so a very radically different sort of place. Now, there was also a shot of like a nightclub discotheque type thing, which was all the go in the late 1960s and so on. And it I mean, a look of people in those days would dress very smartly to go out to the discotheque. Like there was no sexual allure. It was all, there's even young men at discotheque wearing suits, which seems crazy today, but very well dressed, well behaved, gilded. Everyone had a very proper sort of business-like haircut and these sorts of things. But I'm sure it's still a place where boy meets girl and everything. But it was a very restrained affair. The discotheques, certainly the shots that they took, not the nightclubs today. And again, in the nightclubs, there is not a single white person that you could see in the shots. They are all black. A lot of very well-fed black women wearing the most revealing costumes that you think would be inappropriate. They're on tabletops twerking. And now, just out of interest, I looked up a nightclub in the black area of Chicago in the United States. Remember, these are black people who haven't been in Africa for 400 years in terms of generations gone by. And the nightclub behavior in the black people behavior in the nightclub in downtown, mean streets, 30, 40 people are getting shot every weekend, mean streets of Chicago, and the black nightclub in South Africa, you couldn't tell the difference. I mean, if you swapped them around, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know that one was, this in South Africa, the others in Chicago. You could have swapped them around effortlessly, seamlessly, and each was exactly the same sort of overweight black girls in revealing costumes twerking, the same sort of attitudes, the same sort of, the way they, the posturing, the striking of poses and the whole thing, exactly the same. And that's sort of remarkable because the Chicago blacks have been out of Africa for many hundreds of years and yet behave exactly the same as the blacks in South Africa that were born and bred there, have never left there, and so on. Very interesting there, that comparison. Nonetheless, coming back to South Africa, the difference in 50 years, it's staggering that the society appears to have no cohesion. It's trash everywhere. Nothing seems to work. It's out of the people wandering around, walking around the downtown appear to have no purpose. Their steps are slow. They're slouching. They're not going anywhere or doing anything, or they're not needed anywhere. And what a change! What a change from a focused, clean, industrious society. Now, the claims, some of the claims by the activists are, well, it might look like a nice place in 1969, but blacks were being oppressed. Well, hey, hold on a minute. If blacks were being oppressed, blacks were not allowed in, blacks were nowhere, and black people. Wait, stop. Why is it then that there are very well-dressed black women walking around the downtown? Black men wearing suits and quite sharp suits, not like the the suits don't fit or something, and it looks like they're impersonating. No, these look like people who belong in the CBD. You know, they're part of the show here. Why then are we seeing all those black people in every shot and again, they could be coloured rather than 100% black, and I do understand that. And given the quality of the images from 1969, you can't necessarily tell, or it's harder to tell. But there were plenty of black people around in all those shots. Not on the beach shot. That was the only one where I didn't see any black people. But there weren't many people on the beach as it was. Not like now in South Africa, where there were a lot of people on the beach and there was no whites. Why aren't people complaining about the lack of white diversity in South Africa? You know, why is it only bad if there's insufficient black diversity? I mean, again, the hypocrisy is off the charts. So having a look at that, the black people were very much part of the society, or color, again, maybe coloured, part of the society in 1969. The idea that they were totally and 100% excluded is bullshit. Bullshit. It's just simply not true. Well, the other argument is, well, black people were the majority in South Africa. Why shouldn't they have the majority, positions in business? Oh, well, meritoriously, they couldn't cut it, and that's why. The idea it was racist is bullshit. And on top of that, as South Africa was the most prosperous country in Africa, that blacks from all over Africa were coming to South Africa and hugely swelling the numbers. They were hoping for employment or handouts, or whatever. They were in turn going to because they were coming in such numbers, were creating shanty towns out in the more rural areas. And again, they came with no education. They were illiterate in their own language. They had no skills, no work experience. What are they going to do other than straight out labouring jobs? Which was, look, you see, they're doing labouring jobs. That's exploitation. That's slavery, evil white Nazis. So it was quite a circular argument that really had no reason or basis or justification in it. If you look at the black people that were in South Africa, say in, I don't know, 1950, for example, or the late 1940s, and then you look at the amount of black people that came into South Africa from the rest of Africa, then you see that the numbers were massively swelled by migration. That then in turn was used as an activist argument to demand that blacks should have greater representation. But the amount of blacks in South Africa was never anywhere near that number. So, that was a nonsense argument as well. But when you see how far, again, 50 years is probably, since independence, since the black majority rule in South Africa, which is only a generation. So the wealth of the nation, the ability to create new wealth of the nation has all been frittered away. And the place is now a corrupt basket case where certainly the wrong people are in charge, and they're running it into the ground if they haven't done that already. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.